Some of us don't even realize when we're in an OCD spiral until we've wasted hours, lost focus, and feel completely hijacked by our own mind. Now that used to be me, using up 5+ hours every single day, stuck in loops, believing that the only way out was to give in, but that never worked. So what finally did work was a framework that I'd actually built over 10 years. And this, the smaller 3-part framework that is a super powerful piece to the bigger puzzle. Alright, it's not a hack, it's not a cure, but it's what gave me the first real control I'd had in years. My name is Mike. I've lived with OCD for over 20 years, and everything I teach comes from experience, not just theory or a textbook. So if you're stuck in loops and want to learn something new that could actually help you, let's get into it. Now, I use this tool daily, and it's helped me through some of the worst OCD spirals and days I just felt like I had no control. It's simple, but it's super powerful, and it's based on something called the cognitive behavior triangle. Now, this tool is so powerful, it is one of the most effective treatments in therapy. So if you go to see a therapist, it's technically called CBT, also described as cognitive behavior therapy. However, CBT is just a tool that I highly recommend you learn how to use because, let's be honest, OCD does not wait for your next therapy session. Now, it's made up of 3 elements that don't just make up the OCD loop, they're also the same things that can get you out of it. Here's the triangle. Thoughts, also seen as narrative or story. Feelings, your emotional response, or the energy in motion, or rather, the way that I prefer to look at it, energy for motion. More on that later. And finally, behavior, not just what you do, but what you don't do as well. As abstract as that can be, what you don't do could just be as impactful. We'll break this down with a real example from my own life, but first I want to say this. If you're like where I was, stuck in 5+ hours of compulsions every day, or just an amount of time causing such distress, you might not even realize what is and isn't OCD anymore because it's just so integrated into everyday life. And the only thing more terrifying than waking up to another OCD-filled day is when you finally start making progress and you actually notice how much of your life was being stolen. When you're in the spiral, you're just trying to survive it. But once you're out, you realize how much time and energy it just took to get out of it and break free. So let's go into the personal example using CBT. One of my current loops kicks in when I get in my car. Now, a big fear theme for me is loss. I've lost both my parents, so these days my obsessions often target the people that I love most. If it's not about losing them, it's about something happening to me that potentially stops me from being there for them. So I get into my car and boom, that's where the wave of fear hits me. And here's where CBT comes in. So we've got the emotion, which is fear. We've got a vague thought, something like, what if something happens, right? Pretty vague. Now that alone doesn't actually create the full OCD loop. The final piece is behavior. And this is where the compulsion would normally take place or kick in. Now, let's say I sit down in my car, but the fear is too intense. So I get back out the car and I re-enter the car, hoping that I reset the feeling, or maybe the thought and feeling just go away. Or maybe I repeat the process until, you know what I'm going to say next, it just feels right. Now I've completed the OCD loop. The thought, what if something happens? Or what if something bad happens? The emotion. Fear, behavior, repeatedly getting in and out the car. Even though that fear might be irrational, by doing the compulsion even just once, I have now reinforced the loop. But here's the shift. Instead of reacting, I pause. I ask the emotion what it's really about. Now I'm talking literally talk to it like it's an entity. And if you want to make this super powerful, talk out loud. Obviously, just make sure the scenario is suitable, aka there's no one else around you to completely freak out. I personally imagine this as a real entity delivering me a package, a bundle of energy in the form of a gift. Now, this is the emotion, in this case, fear. And this entity, in my opinion, has my best interest in mind. Sometimes it doesn't feel like it, but I've had to work my way to get where I am today. So even if it feels like it can or has been torture in the past, you don't have to accept the first package it hands you. You can say, thanks, but I might not actually need that emotion right now. Now, this emotion always has a story behind it, a thought that has been triggered. And while it can feel overwhelming, especially if your whole day is just made up of loops and spirals, put it this way, you don't have to fix everything at once. Just start with one trigger. And for me, it's this moment of dread when I get in the car. So instead of reacting, I pause. Emotion, check. Narrative, emerging, still vague, but no behavior yet. All right, so we haven't completed the loop. Now, pausing is technically a behavior influenced by the loop, but it's a behavior that is our ticket out of the loop as well. Now, at this point, the loop hasn't been fully reinforced the way it has been in the past. This right here is a fork in the road. Now I have a choice. So I ask out loud, what bad thing do I think will happen? After a little back and forth, literally like a real conversation, the thought finally surfaces, something that I can actually work with. What if I crash my car and then something happens to my daughter and I can't be there for her? So what I do is I thank the entity for this message. I say, thank you for showing me what I value. Thank you for caring, because that's what these thoughts really are, right? Exaggerated attempts to protect what we love most. And then I respond, look, I see your concern. That would be horrible. But getting out the car and then back in again isn't going to prevent that from happening. Let's be real with each other. What will help is focusing on the road. So thank you. I'll actually use this package of energy as emotion, as fuel, to drive now with even more care. So check this out. I've actually redirected that energy, same emotion, but paired with a new story and a new behavior. Now, some might be thinking, well, you've just created a new loop. Let's be honest. If we had to choose the old loop to the new loop, I think it's pretty obvious which one we would go with, right? But here's the cool part. When we feed into the loop that is quite irrational and we know deep down it doesn't do anything for the outcome that we fear, isn't it no wonder the thought and the feeling keeps coming back? So when we redirect it to something that could actually do something to prevent or even make having the thing happen just a little better as an outcome, the energy is not only used up in a more rational way, but what I've noticed personally is that same emotion, even if it does come back, it's much less intense the next time, not stronger. So maybe that emotion just wanted me to focus on the road more because it knew what I valued most. And once we behave in a way long enough, it becomes a habit. After all, habits are essentially loops, right? Loops that come from CBT. So let's recap using CBT. The old narrative. What if I crash my car and I can't be there for my daughter? The new narrative. Driving does carry risks, so I'll just focus deeply to be able to protect what I care about most. Focus on the road. Old emotion, fear and anxiety. New emotion, still some fear, but now there's also gratitude, a sense of purpose, even calmness. Old behavior, get out the car, get back in again, repeat until it just feels right. New behavior, stay in the car, acknowledge the thought, have a conversation, focus on the road. Now I've completed CBT, but in a way that actually empowers me instead of trapping me. This is what it means to rewire the loop. These emotional entities we talk to, by the way, they're not dumb because they are you, using your cognitive horsepower and emotional intensity against you. That's why it feels so personal, so believable. They know your deepest values. And when you try to suppress them or distract them without actually addressing the story they're trying to tell you, but in some ways they're saving you time and just hitting you with the emotion, they'll just show up again, either in another form or even stronger next time. This could also be why it often feels like if you ignore or suppress one loop, another one just pops up wearing a different mask, or it shows up the same time or the same scenario, just louder than before, like someone trying to get your attention about something important, and you're not actually acknowledging them at all. It can be the same pattern, but just a different costume. To me, OCD is like the most brutal, relentless accountability coach. Yes, sometimes, honestly, it can feel psychotic. Yes, it can feel like it tortures me. But when I zoom out far enough, or rather when I dig deep enough, definitely easier said than done, by the way, it's often just pointing to something that you care about deeply in the worst or maybe even sometimes the most erratic way. I get it. And if you respond to it differently, you start to build new neural pathways. Please remember, it's not about perfection. In fact, perfection is most likely what OCD tries to bait you into chasing. It's about just getting one step better than the last, and then again, and then again. Just like pulling weeds out of a garden, you don't clear them all at once. You just start with the roots one at a time. Now, I hope this breakdown of the cognitive behavior triangle gave you something practical to work with for your next loop or encounter. And more importantly, I hope you do remember, you're beautiful, you're resilient, and you're not alone. You've got this. I'll see you in the next video.